Hi! Welcome to this Kickstarter preview video for Small Railroad Empires. This is another addition in the Small Empire series. We have seen many games from Arcona Games. I really like this series because they have a focus on small duration, very simple rules, yet they are satisfying with a lot of depth and a lot of choices for you to take. This is a brand new prototype. It's currently hitting Kickstarter, so you can go and check the Kickstarter campaign page in the description of this video. This is a train game, uses pick up and deliver mechanism, card drafting, set collection, very simple rules, really simple rules, and this is the beauty and the power of the Small Empire series. I'm just giving my opinion right away, but I wouldn't expect that I wouldn't like this game, so the same happens for the rest of the games in the series. Very simple, very fast, very satisfying, and a blast with everyone I have showed to them. Let me show you how Small Railroad Empires works. Welcome to Small Railroad Empires, a pick up and deliver, set collection, track laying game for 2 to 4 players. We will be building railroad tracks, sending trains with goods from industries to cities, and completing achievements in order to earn victory points. During gameplay, players will be building their tracks by placing 2 trains on the modular board. When building tracks, we have to pay the cost in gold for different train types, depending where the track passes through. Once a track connects an industry that produces a specific good with a city that requires and has demand for this good, the player then may send a train to complete the delivery and earn gold depending on the track length. But make no mistake, this is a race to complete achievements such as be the first to make 4 deliveries, be the first to build 3 tunnels, for which you will earn extra victory points. Finally, when all players run out of tracks to lay down, which will happen at the same time, the game ends. Players will calculate the final victory points they have from achievements that they have accomplished during gameplay, and the player with the most prestige will win the game. So I think it's pretty clear for the moment. The game objective is to build the best railroad empire and have the most victory points at the end of the game. Let's go and see how the setup of the game works. So the first thing we need to do is we need to construct a map. You will use the tiles to make a modular map of the country you will be building your railroad empires on. For 2 players game, you will use 3 map tiles. For example, you can do something like that, where you have 3 map tiles connected to each other. But for a 3 or 4 player game, you will use all 4 tiles. Of course, you can combine them in different ways. There are some rules that apply in order to have various setups and a lot of replayability for the game. In order to construct the map, you have to place each of the tiles in a way that most white dots sides touch each other throughout the various tiles. Keep in mind that white dots don't have to touch perfectly. This is just for a better aid and in order to have a better and more balanced map setup to begin with. Then we have to place factory and city tokens. On each city icon, hex, we place a city token. City tokens look like that, and they have the city icon on top. And on each factory icon, which is a circle and has circles on the board, we place a factory token which has a circle and the factory iconography on the top. For example, you can start randomly putting city tiles where it asks for city tiles and factories in the locations where it asks for factories. Now you may notice that some cities or factories are placed either outside or on another of the tiles. The location of these tiles are pointed with an arrow. Therefore, what we're going to do, for example, here there is a small icon of a city pointing arrow outside the board, so we're going to position one of the hexes exactly in this spot. The same will happen for all of the arrows pointing outside of the main boards, and we're going to position the tiles as indicated thereby. So after placing the factory and city tokens, the result will look something like this. You have various cities on the spaces indicated by the arrows or the icons, and the same applies for the factory. Keep in mind that there is a simple rule: the cities are hexes and the factories are circles, rounds. The next thing you need to do is you need to set up the player boards, the train meeples and the disc markers. Each player gets a player board, which is what you see in front of you here, train meeples of their preferred color and the accompanied disc markers of the same color. You put one train of your color on each of the two unlockable train spaces on your player board. These are the two located here with the lock icon. So in order to unlock those two extra trains, you need to pay their money indicated at the bottom. I'm going to explain this later on. And then you have to put your money marker on the starting position, which is indicated on the money track here. And there is an S for $5, which is the amount of money you start the game with. Next thing we need to set up is a production board. We place a production board next to the main board, and then we place the main goods on each industry track, starting at the starting level marked with S. So you can see in the first track, the first column, this is the starting location, and we put the yellow goods, the pink on the second, the black on the third, and the brown on the fourth. These respective columns are companies, so that you know they're called Kalias company, the one which has the yellow cube. Then the one with the pink cube, the second one is the Kemper brothers. The one with the black cube, the third one is the Gleason company. And the fourth one, the one with the brown cube, is the Derwood Elec. Keep in mind that if you play with two players, for each factory not present on the board, you raise the level of that industry by one on the track. For example, you can play a two-player game and one Kalias company factory and one Kemper brothers factory are not present on the board, then you have to raise the respective industry levels by one on the production board. Meaning that you would start like that. Speaking of goods, now that you have the full understanding of how the goods work, you can see that the factory tokens that we previously placed on the main board indicate the goods that they produce. They have different colors indicating the different type of goods that they are producing. So what you have to do during the setup is you have to put a cube of each color indicated on each of those factory tiles on top of them. The result will be something like that. As you can see, I already placed the specific goods that each factory token produces. Then we prepare the achievements. We select 5 achievement cards at random and place them near the board. So we use this deck, which is all the deck of the different achievements. They have this icon on the back. We randomly pick up 5, keep them open. These are the 5 achievements, public information that are going to be used throughout the game and are going to be chased by everyone. Then we have the secret contracts, where we deal 1 secret contract card to each player at random. You can see that they have the question mark at the back of the card. This is secret information. Each player gets only 1 and keeps it to him or herself accordingly. Next step is about the train cards. We shuffle the train cards and deal 3 to each player and place 3 cards from the deck on the bottom of the production board, face up. So this is the deck of the train cards. It's full of different train cards, and you see that I already placed 3 open up to create a market. Keep in mind that they are aligned with the value at the bottom of the production board accordingly. Each player will get 3 of those and they will be their hand. They'll start with 3 train cards in their hand. So the last thing we need to do is we place the starting train meeples. Each player, going counterclockwise, will place 1 train on a starting factory of their choice, and then the play proceeds clockwise, starting from the player that last placed a train during this setup step. Now, gameplay. Gameplay is very simple, and this is one of the main strengths of this series of games, and Small Railroad Empires is no exception to this golden rule. So let's see how the gameplay works. We have the steps, the 4 different steps that go in a turn. Players take turns in playing the game, and during each turn, a player goes through those specific 4 steps. We have first the construct tracks, which is mandatory. Then we have second, the deliver of a good, which is optional. We have third, to complete achievements, which is also optional, and if you're eligible. And the last and 4th step, which is again optional, is 4th, to buy a train card. I repeat, construct cards, deliver goods, complete achievements, and buy a train card in this specific sequence. So let's go through those 4 simple steps in a more detail so that you understand the full concept of the game. We start with the construct tracks step, which is mandatory. At this step, you must place 2 train meeples exactly. It is mandatory and they need to be 2 exactly, not 1, not 3, specifically 2 train meeples. That way you keep constructing your track and your network. Each train meeple that you place must be adjacent to at least one of your own meeples, and you cannot place a train meeple where you already have one. You cannot do double placing, that is. While placing each train meeple, you must pay the corresponding terrain cost, if any. We're going to come back to this in a bit. And then continue laying your 2 trains. On the right of your player board, you can see a reminder of the different costs for the different terrain types. As you can see, the prices are indicated here, and the specific amount of dollars that you need to pay for each different placement is depicted on the right. Let's see the cost so that we can understand. This is again a reminder. It shows that you need to place 2 tracks for each of your turns. It's mandatory, and the costs are indicated on the right. For example, if you place a train meeple on either a field or desert terrain, you pay $0. If you place 2 train meeples in 2 subsequent desert tiles, then you pay $1. If it is a forest tile, the dark green, again you pay $1. If it is a lake tile, which is more difficult to lay track on, it costs $2. And if it is a mountain track terrain, because you need to make a tunnel, it's the most expensive. For each of those you pay $3. It's quite difficult to lay tracks on there. So during this step, I would place 2 train meeples. This is mandatory. So I would place, for example, one here, pay $0 because it's a fields terrain. And this is a desert terrain which also costs $0, so I would conclude this step, laying track. The golden rule is that there is a maximum of 2 players presence on any given space, meaning that there cannot be more than 2 train meeples from 2 different players, that is. So a third player cannot go and join a tile. So for example, this is, let's say, the turn of the purple player, they can go and do that, but this now maximizes the capacity of train meeples. 2 players can go and sit in this desert tile, meaning that you cannot go and put another train meeple in this. This is not allowed, only 2. And of course you cannot put a second meeple of your own. It needs to be on, all your yellow needs to be on different tiles. Therefore, in this maximum capacity, you'll have 2 different colors from 2 different players. I just indicated the rule by jumping and making the construct tracks from the purple player, but keep in mind that all of the 4 steps are played in sequence from the same player before moving to the next player to take the 4 steps again. Did you notice that the purple player placed a train on a terrain which has a star? When this happens, you are gaining 1 victory point. So immediately when you place a train on one of those tiles that they have a yellow star, you need to go to the victory point board and grab 1 victory point respectively. Again, here's a victory point board, meaning that our purple player would grab 1 VP because they stepped on lay track, a train meeple, on one terrain that indicated 1 star prestige point on there. Also, you notice on your player board that you have unlockable trains. During your turn, you can also choose to place a 3rd additional train by unlocking 1 more of your trains from your player board. You have to note that you can do this only if you are not the first on the prestige track, meaning you're not ahead in VP points, and by paying the cost shown on the respective box. For the first train will be $2, and for the second train would be $3. So I may have already placed, for example, 2 train meeples on my turn, as I did before. I was a yellow player, and if I want to place a 3rd one so that I can reach faster on a real nice slot and make possibly a delivery down the road, I would need to pay $2 to put the 3rd one. I can only do that if I'm not ahead on victory points, meaning if I'm not winning currently the game, as indicated on the VP board track, the prestige board track essentially. Keep in mind that the game is not punishing, therefore you can also have a new unconnected route. You can also start a new unconnected route by paying $2 and placing a train meeple at a factory where you don't have a train meeple. Therefore, if for some reason you're blocked or it's difficult for your strategy, you can start by putting a meeple at a factory token where you don't have a train meeple already, paying $2 and then placing the two meeple item meeples, train meeples as applicable. Now we finished explaining the construct trucks mandatory step, which is the first one. We go to the second one, which is the delivery of goods, and it's optional. After constructing the trucks, if this results in you connecting a factory with one or two goods on the factory to a city that demands these specific goods, you may send one good from your factory to that city to make a delivery. Additionally, your good may pass through other of your factories and city stations before it reaches the final destination, but it must be able to travel through your own connected line in order to make the delivery. Before showing the example and how this works, there is another additional rule which says that you cannot make a delivery to a city if you already have a station, which is a disk, there. And we're going to see how you put disks on different cities. For the benefit of our example, let's say that on a previous turn I have already managed to connect by putting those two train meeples here. One factory which produces a black good to a city which demands delivery of a black good, as indicated there. So let's say that I have done this step previously by making the construct trucks step and placing the item train meeple there. So the steps that we follow are the following. We take the good from the factory and we place it on our player board. This is useful later on, so I would pick up this with good, this black cube that I'm delivering, and put it on my personal player board. Then I would count the length of the track which I use to deliver that good. Each space on my track line with a train meeple adds +1 to the length of the track, while each of my passing stations, if I had discs in between, removes -2 from the track's length. Once I have calculated the track length, I receive the appropriate amount of dollars and star, which are the victory points, according to the track bonus on my player board. Let me show you this example. I delivered this black good from here all the way to this city here. I count 1, 2, 3, 4 train meeples distance. I didn't pass via any disc, meaning I didn't had something like that. This is not legal, but I'm just showing you. There was no disc intervening in between my track line. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going back to my player board to see how many victory points I need to win. As you can see in this specific example, my length was 4, so I'm between here, between 3 and 5. That means I get $1 immediately on my money track and 0 victory points. If I made a larger length, between 6 and 8, I would get $2 and 1 VP, and if I made 9+, I would get $3 and 2 victory points on the victory point board. Keep in mind that the game forces you to make longer track deliveries, because if, for example, you only make 0 to 2, if you made it 2 short train length, then you will get $0 and you will also lose 1 victory point, which you don't want to. After I receive the appropriate amount of dollars, money and victory points, I go to the next step of this delivery, the sub-step, which is actually to replace the train meeple on the final destination city with a train disc on that city. Meaning, remember, I just placed this final train meeple here, so I delivered the good to this city. Therefore now I'm going to remove the final train meeple and put one of my discs there, essentially creating a station. The consequence of this placement is that I cannot deliver to this city again, and this disc indicates that if I try to deliver there, I will probably, my players will yell because I cannot do it, but also if I use in my network passing through stations of my own, I would have -2 in the track length calculation as I have indicated before, which is also something, a penalty that you don't want. Then it is a bit of a tricky, because you want to go and deliver goods and get victory points and money, but you don't want to use those train stations passing through next delivery in subsequent turns, because then you're going to essentially virtually shorten your track length. The next thing you need to check is you also receive 2 additional dollars if you are the first to deliver on this city, meaning your disc is at the bottom, or receive $1 if you are, for example, a second to deliver. If another player comes, they will get $1 if they are second, but if I delivered first, I will get $2. Next, I can play a train card from my hand if I have fulfilled that train card condition with the delivery I just made, and I gain one bonus star, one bonus victory point. For example, remember I just delivered one black good to this city, therefore I can play this card from my hand, which indicates that when you deliver one black good with your delivery, you gain one additional victory point. And I play this card in front of me. The last thing you need to do is that you go back to the production board, you check the respective track, and you raise the level of the industry whose factory you used to send the good, and increasing the level by 1. In this case, I use the factory of Denwood, which is the last one. It had this icon, so I will increase the level in this track accordingly by pushing the marker 1. Okay, there goes the second step. We move to the third. Now we complete achievement, which is an optional step if we are eligible. In this step we check to see if we are eligible for completing any of the achievements, and if we are, we need to do it during this step, and specifically during this step. So let's say, for the benefit of the example, for this turn I managed to lay track on my third mountain terrain, so I'm the tunnel master. So I take one of my discs and I place it, since I'm the first, on the 2 victory point slot here. If someone else has done it before me and I was a second player to do it, then what I would do is I would place my marker on one of those 2 areas here, indicating that I only receive 1 victory point instead of 2, which only the first one does. A small rule to remember is that if at this point I could complete both of 2 or more than 2 achievement cards on the same turn, if I'm going to position my disc on the 2 victory point, I can only fulfill 1 achievement card. But if I'm positioning on the lower tier, which is for the 1 victory point, I can do more than 1. The fourth and last step is a buy a train card, which again is optional. On my turn I can buy a train card from the ones available on the market. The first one costs $0, the second one $1, and the third one $2, as indicated on the bottom of the production board. If I do buy a card, what happens is the most expensive one slides to the next cheapest option slot, and then you open a new one to its position, as you would expect. And that's it. 4 steps. Very simple, very easy. You just follow them in sequence. Construct tracks, deliver good, complete achievements, and buy a train card if you want to do so. So a couple of more details to finish up that we need to remember. When you make a delivery from a factory corresponding to your secret card, you see those secret cards that we got one at the beginning of the game, then you can immediately reveal it and add the bonus prestige to your points that you're collecting. You do not draw a new secret card, you only have one for the whole game. Also, the production board. When you raise an industry level and it reaches the cube level, that industry's factory will produce 1 good. For example, if you raise the level of Calaia's company and it reaches a production level, Calaia's company is this one, and it goes all the way here, so it reaches this slot, then each of the Calaia's company factories will produce 1 good, but only if they are not at full capacity. They must have either 1 or 0 goods on the marker. Then they get +1 cube. Whenever you are unable to pay for something, you can take a loan card. Loan cards immediately give you $3, but at the end of the game, they subtract 1 victory point per card. Game end. The game ends when all of the players have placed their train meeples on the board. This will happen on the same turn for everyone. Players will now add up the prestige points from the achievement cards, plus the victory points, the prestige points that they have received during the game, and the player with the most prestige is the winner of Small Railroad Empires. There is a nice variety coming from the achievement cards. I've laid before in front of you only 5, but there are many more. So from left to right, we can see that there is a chance to follow and pursue different things in order to get more victory points. For example, with the treasure hunter, it's very simple. What you need to do is you need to have $9, and then you are able to place a disc if you're the first one here to get 2 victory points, or if you're second or third here to get 1 victory point subsequently. Therefore, the next one is the Ardent Collectioner. As you can see, it has different type of train colors there from train cards. If you have a train card of all of the 4 colors, then you get to place your discs there and earn victory points. We have seen the tunnel master throughout the game, explanation. In this one you need to have at least, you have 3 train meeples lay track on 3 specific mountain terrain type on your network. You can have the same with the lakes, for example. If you have 3 trains on 3 mountain terrain types, you get to place your disc there. They don't have to be adjacent next to each other. Then we have my favorite, the landscape artist. Very nice title to it, that is. Very simple. For this one, what you need to do is you need to have made the delivery on a track that passes on from each of those terrain types, and therefore you get to earn victory points by placing your disc there. The last one, the longer track expert, it is very simple. If you have made a delivery on a track with a length of 9, then you get to earn this specific, to put your disc on there. There are many more achievement cards, and together with your hidden achievement card, that is only one throughout the whole game, you have different things to pursue together with your main target on the game. There you have it. This is Small Railroad Empires. As you know from my introduction, I already liked the game. I had the pleasure of playing it many times so far, and I really enjoyed the way it works. The company uses very simple, streamlined mechanics, blend them really well throughout a lot of play testing, and they produced simple, unique, and highly satisfying games. I really have a soft spot for those type of games because with a couple of rules you can get into the table, explain to everyone, and have a blast, both you as a more advanced or more experienced gamer, but also with your family. It doesn't matter. It is from those kind of games that they can really sit around the table, a mixture of gamers, different types of gamers, different experience of gamers, and they all are going to have a blast. Very simple rules. It is extremely easy to explain to everyone. It looks gorgeous on the table. If you're a fan of train games like I am, I really like the big train games. Sometimes I want to play a train game as a filler, something that only lasts 30 or 60 minutes and gives me a satisfaction of my laying track, putting my network, delivering things. This is it, guys. This is really simple, but it has this satisfying, feeling to it. I really enjoyed the mechanisms, very simple. It doesn't punish you, so there's some blocking because you can only put 2 trains from 2 different players on the same hex, but you can go around it. You can even pay some dollars to start a new network, meaning you don't have to expand your own pre-existing one, so you're not cornered and left out in the game. Very simple rules. You have to go after the achievement cards, which are open public information, and everyone is looking at them all the time, trying to get before you, like a race, to complete them before you to get the victory points. The money is easy. If you're out of money, you can get a loan, but you're going to lose 1 victory point at the end. Very simple, extremely well done and crafted details into the design, and a table presence that I adore. The modularity of the board is always something that I'm looking forward, and this game gives it. Networking, pick up and deliver, train game, all in one nice, lovely package. This is Small Railroad Empires.